Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So, this is going to be a different video. It's a different format. I do have a special guest with me, so if you like this kind of video, let me know in the comments. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into this video. Okay, hello everyone, and obviously this is going to be a completely different kind of video, but I've got a special guest with me today. His name is Bob. Say hello, Bob.
Hello.
Basically, obviously, as you see from the title of this video, this is just going to be talking about the World War and just kind of, we don't know how long this whole video is going to be, but if you like what you're hearing and you want to see more of Bob, put a comment in the video and maybe there'll be a bit more Bob featured. Anyway, we're going to get straight into it. This isn't scripted, it's just two people just talking about the World War because obviously, as you all know, it's the 80th anniversary. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. So, would you like to start with anything?
I would like to start saying VE Day, very important day for this
Absolutely.
country and,
Yes.
and the Commonwealth,
Yeah.
and all the people that died, including
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
honest with you.
absolutely.
It's a very important day, and I hope everybody celebrate the VE Day and say we can have tomorrow because they died yesterday.
Absolutely, well said. I just want to say as well that it's almost like a fear, but like as the older generation kind of die out, I hope the newer generation, you know, the younger generation, remember this.
Will it follow? Who's to know? Who's to know? Because you can go back on wars. Okay, we
Yeah.
never had a world war before. We've had massive battles, Battle of Trafalgar, Battle of Waterloo, etc.,
Yeah,
etc.,
yeah, yeah.
etc. Yes, they're down in history as a date, but no more than a
Yeah,
date.
true. Yes, yeah. True.
Celebrations.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm talking about. Like, will, you know, in 20 years' time, will people still be celebrating like we do now? You know,
I'd
that's
like to
the-
think they are. I'd
Yeah.
really like to think they are,
Yeah.
and I will bring my children and my grandchildren to know about it.
Yeah.
Whether it sticks with them or not is such going to be. It's going to be 100 years probably when they get 20.
Yeah.
So it's going to be such a part of history, and it's just in the books, if you like, history
Yeah, yeah.
books. Yes, good people died in that war, but it's also a part of history. It's a battle
Yeah, yeah,
or
of
a
course.
war,
Yeah,
a war,
yeah.
like in many
Yeah,
other
yeah,
wars and
yeah.
wars yet to come.
So yeah, so basically we're going to sort of jump into, obviously this is obviously the 80th anniversary for World War II ending. We're going to talk about, obviously, keep in mind, obviously we're from England, okay, so we're going to talk a lot about England and kind of like how it was over here. But obviously we're going to be talking about other countries, and also, as you know, my channel and you know what I do, where I travel, we want to kind of shed light, because not a lot of people will know this, but shed light on just like the amount of sacrifice, if you will, that like Russia
Absolutely, absolutely.
Russia put forth to the World War that I don't think a lot of people actually know. And despite what you think about what's going on right now, you still got to kind of be respectful and understand
Absolutely.
the sacrifices that the Red Army.
I think, don't take this on the top of my head, I think it's about 70 million.
Yeah, I think about
I'm
70
not sure
million.
the exact
Yeah.
figures, so don't come on to me on that one. 70 million Russians died. A lot of them were civilians as well. The Russian army weren't prepared for what Hitler done on June in 1941. They weren't prepared for that. Didn't even know it was going to happen because Ribbentrop had been over there to make peace with Stalin, and they had a thing with Poland, and
Yeah.
so yes, it was. I think they were shocked. I think
Yeah.
they were shocked.
I think obviously we're going to get a couple of people in the comments to go, yeah, but they teamed up with Germany and invaded Poland, and you know, okay, yeah, but people need to understand that that was a defensive pact way before this war even started.
Oh yes,
And
yeah.
you know, but we should be remembering.
Remember
them
the dead, remember the dead.
For what, you know, the sacrifice that,
Because
you know,
in hindsight, what should have happened? Great Britain declared war on Germany because of Poland. Well, in hindsight, they should declare war on Russia as well 2 weeks later when they invaded
Yeah.
half of Poland. But it would have been suicidal anyway.
Yeah.
Suicidal. And of course, the Russians became our allies.
yes,
Very good
yes,
allies. We did
absolutely,
really.
yeah. And I don't think many people will know this, but we actually provided a lot of equipment to the
Lots,
Russian people.
lots and lots and lots, yeah.
Unlike with the Americans, that I think, and don't quote me, but I think we finished paying our debt to America in 2016 for all the stuff they'd given us for the World War Two. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere.
Yeah,
that
that's
it
good.
was-
That's
I,
good.
I
I'm
think,
not sure.
I think it took us about 60 odd years to pay that whole
But we
debt
still
off.
give them land for air bases.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
is
yeah.
part
yeah,
of the
yeah.
deal.
But what we gave in equipment, we didn't want anything for it. It was just we knew
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they needed that, and obviously as an ally.
We did supply Russians really well, and our merchant navy suffered a lot.
Mm.
Them poor guys in that sea that was frozen, a lot of them died supplying Russia. A lot. And once a boat got hit,
Yeah.
you went down that sea, you weren't going to last 5 minutes. And don't get me wrong, I think the Russians appreciate that. I think they
Yeah,
always
absolutely.
did.
Of course they do.
It was our support for Russia, and of course the bombing. They want us to bomb Dresden, for instance, because they wanted a second front. We could not do the second front. We could not do a second front without the Americans. There was no way the British could do the second front in D-Day. They always wanted it. Russia called and called and called. So what? Churchill decided to go to the underbelly, went into Sicily,
Yeah.
Italy, and up what he called the soft underbelly, which then did make a second front because Germany had to come and support Italy,
Yeah.
which took a lot of their troops away. But the German army, I can't knock them. I'm not saying I agree with everything
Yeah, of
they've done,
course. Yeah.
but they were so good,
Yeah.
so good. And oh my word, their tanks, everything about them. The engineering in Germany was well better. I
Yeah.
hate to say it, better
Yeah.
than the Brits, better than the Americans, better than anybody put together. Engineers in Germany, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And because obviously we talk a lot about the the war,
We do
just
indeed,
just
yeah.
in general, just in conversation. And you were telling me something interesting about how people knew where Hitler was,
Yeah,
but they wouldn't kill him because it was a strategic play. And so if you want to talk a bit more about that.
It was he had a place in, I believe it was Austria, or on the border Austria-German, in the mountain, they called it the Eagle's Nest. It's right on a mountain. Easy for a couple of Lancasters to go over there and put a couple of big boys on it
Yeah.
and blow him to bits. But they did not want him dead because while he was leading that country, his generals were brilliant, but he weren't quite up for it. And they said, no, keep him alive, keep him alive. Hence,
Yeah.
invading Russia, which put a lot of relief off of Great Britain and the Commonwealth, a lot. So the mistakes he made overcome the good things he done, and the good things he done weren't particularly it was down to his generals. His generals were brilliant, but Hitler himself, he was never a leader in World War One. He was only a carrier, a carried messenger carrier, so he'd never had experience in that sort of world. And so, no, we never want to assassinate him. Yes, I believe we could assassinate him many, many times. His own people tried to assassinate him, I think it was about 12 times.
Bloody hell.
I think it was about 12, it could be more. but I think it was about 12 times. They give him bottles of wine to bring over on an aeroplane, which the explosives in it, but it was too cold, so the explosives didn't go off. Obviously, we all know about the one where they got him.
See you later.
See you later, mate. Where they got him. Assassinations on Hitler's life, I think, was about 12. And you had the beer festival where they used to drink. There was a bomb behind that. He left early to get a plane or get a car, and the bomb went off, killed loads of people, but he'd gone, just gone. So his own people tried to assassinate him, and we never, or the Allies never tried to assassinate him, because let him carry on. While he's doing this, let him carry on. And so he did carry on. I think he made massive mistakes by one going into Russia when he had all of Europe in his palm of his hands. And Churchill once says, one of my favourite sayings, which I've said to you before, when Hitler says, "We are the fortress of Europe," he says, "You might be the fortress of Europe, but you haven't got a roof." Hence bombing. They moaned about us, they called us the terror boys because we went over and bombed. But there was no other way we could get to Germany. There was nothing we could do. They could do what they want, but we can do nothing. The only way to get back to them was bombing. And I know it's bad, but it was the only way. Only way to show them that we're still on the map, we're still there, and we're going to fight on. Thanks to Sir Winston Churchill.
Yeah, yeah.
Winston Churchill was a great talker. Don't get me wrong, he made some really bad mistakes, especially during World War One, Gallipoli, for instance. He did make big mistakes. No leader is perfect, but for a man who could talk, he could talk. He could talk you into winning, and that's what my admiration comes from. Sir Winston, he was never going to surrender. We will never surrender. We will never lay down. We will never die. He once said, Chamberlain, Halifax, wanted to do appeasement with Germany just after Dunkirk, when we were on our knees, to be honest. And Churchill says, how can you make an appeasement with a tiger when your head is in its mouth? And I thought, wow, exactly right. How can you make peace? Oh, hold on, let me go, please. Yeah. That was about the limit of that thing. Also, my opinion, and it's strictly my opinion, so it's not in any books or anything. I don't think Hitler committed suicide. He had the Third Reich, and he was a very proud man. He wanted the Fourth Reich. He didn't think Germany would ever die. And there's never been proof of his death. They found a skull. That happens to be a woman's skull, not even a man's. So that was looked upon as national right. I don't think he committed suicide. What happened to him? I don't know.
No one's going to know, are they?
Nobody will ever know. But he was too proud. He was too much into Germany. You know, he was going to build Germany into the biggest country in the world, which it was at one stage. And to kill yourself, no. I just can't see it. Just can't see it. But that's strictly my opinion, you know.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. And I want to just say as well with this, like, yes, obviously we're going to be talking about, you know, certain facts that you can't argue with, but just keep in mind, just like, you know, take it with a pinch of salt that, you know, this is just two guys just you know, chatting about the World War. You know, it's the 80th anniversary, and we're just having a conversation, and we're just kind of sharing our thoughts and opinions. You know, and you know, you're welcome to, you know, leave your comment and, you know, leave a healthy discussion in the comments. And
it's not all in black and white. We don't know. We say what we think.
Absolutely.
Some people agree, some people think no.
Absolutely.
And that's great to disagree.
Exactly.
I'd like to somebody say, well, no, I don't agree with this. Because I would say, well, in my opinion.
Exactly.
And I think that's what it's all about, because unless you're a veteran and been there, and you've had the absolute facts, you're in that battle, I know what happened, you don't argue with them. They know it.
Absolutely.
I read books. That's about it.
I
watch films. The World at War was a fantastic thing to watch. I watched that about 3 times. So they bring out the best, the closest to facts you can get. But unless you were there, you do not know. Every book is someone's opinion. Every single book is written. This is what I think. This is what I think. And some I agree with, some I don't. But just because I don't agree with them, I still look at them and think, well, maybe, maybe not.
Of course. So, obviously, you know, as I said, we're going to talk a lot about England because obviously, you know, that's the country we're from. But obviously, not forgetting what Russia done. And, you know, just thinking about how close Germany got into Moscow, like they were so close to getting to Moscow.
Very close.
And obviously that don't really bear thinking about. But, I mean, I don't know what changed the tide, but like...
The weather.
The weather. Yeah, true. Yeah, the weather.
I think it was the weather. Supplies. Supplies run out. Weather was against them. I mean, they didn't go in there. They thought it'd be all over by the winter. I don't know why, but they actually thought it'd be all over by the winter. So they went in there with non-winter supplies. Their supplies were rubbish. So everything was against the greatest army that ever set foot in this world, in my opinion. The German army. I'm not saying they were good. I'm not saying nothing good about them. But probably the best army of... You know, you go back to the Romans since the last... Like that, or even Napoleon. But the probably in recent times, I know it's not recent no more because it was 80 years ago,
Yeah.
but as I view it, the best army this planet's seen and probably
Yeah.
never see again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I'm not going to go too much into it, but you know, wars and future wars are going to be fought completely differently to how they were because of technology. You know,
Yeah,
so
not, man on the ground is not going to work
it's
no more.
it's never going to be about manpower anymore.
It's
you know?
never going to be man on the
It's-
ground. It's going to be the size of the
Yeah,
tank. It's
yeah.
going to be the size of the bomb.
It's all about technologies and you know cyber warfare and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, that's the you know the future of that. But you know enough about that because we're not about that. But yeah, so obviously you had Russia kind of pushing it back, and then obviously you had D-Day.
D-Day, second front, we called that. Yeah, second front. Well, we were already through to North Africa at the time. It's probably one of Germany's first defeats on land. Was Africa,
Yeah.
Africa Corps. Their first defeat on land where Montgomery come along, Al Alamein, and sent them back. The Italians, taking nothing away from them, but was nowhere near as good as the Germans, nowhere near. They didn't have anything like the Germans did. The Germans backed them up several times, and that was, I would say, Al Alamein was one of their first defeats. Somebody say it was the Battle of Britain, was their first defeat. It was never a defeat, it was never a victory, it just carried on, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's not an end to it, where Al Alamein was. So then, once we could go through Italy, and then we're heading up towards Germany, so that was the very first front, and then of course we had, which everybody knows, D-Day.
Yeah.
And everything. So Germany had a front from Russia. They
Yeah.
had a front from Italy coming up from Italy. Had a front from France.
Yeah.
And the manpower, even though they had a lot of allies, they could never sustain that sort of frontage.
No.
You know, even though they fought back right up until 1944.
Yeah.
You know, they come back and they thought, where are these coming from? Okay, they did recruit young boys, old men, but at the same time they were still coming up, mate. They did not want to give up, because if you look upon Germany as a country, Adolf Hitler come along at the right time. Germany needed a leader.
Yeah.
We were make sanctions against them because of the First World War. France, Great Britain were taking their coal, their food. They were starving, they were hungry. And Hitler came as Chancellor of the Exchequer in 1933, and he talked it, and Goebbels, his talker. And if I hate to say it because I don't agree with what the Germans done whatsoever.
Yeah.
But if I was a young German boy in Germany and seeing my parents and my brothers and sisters suffer, somebody come along and say, we're going to bring the greatness back in Germany, I would have been there. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
But I'd have been there because this guy, they needed him. And he come smack on time to bring Germany back on its feet, which he did do, without doubt.
Yeah.
He did do. But
Yeah.
I just don't think, in my opinion, strictly my opinion, the First World War would never end, it just carried on to the Second World War, because it was never going to, you've only got to look between 1918 and 1939, all the sanctions that Germany were going through, and it was just brewing up to say, well, we've had enough. But I am not a German, I'm not a German lover.
Yeah.
I really disagree with things they've done to persecute the Jews and everybody else, the homosexuals, everybody else they persecuted. I really don't like that. But I just look upon it as history rather than favouritism.
Yeah. No, I get that.
And even family, I lost family, my uncle, during World War II. But I can see, I don't blame them as such.
Yeah.
Because if I was 15, 16, living in Germany at that time, this guy come along and say, we're going to bring you great again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, that's you think what you do what you can for your country,
Absolutely, yeah.
regardless of whether it's a
Absolutely.
good or a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
There was no bad in them in them days, though.
Well, yeah.
When you take Hitler in 1933, he didn't even persecute the Jews. Once he started persecuting the Jews, to start with, just not going in the parks, not allowing the sunbaths. You thought, hold on, this is a bit strange. But then he got deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, obviously, massively deeper. Massively wrong.
Yeah.
But to start with, it wasn't all that. He was coming in, he was sort of the first, if you like, or a species A man, ever. You know, before people could do what they wanted around him, was kick a dog in the street. He made it law. If you kick a dog in the street, you can put him in jail for it. Even though he was, strange enough, a vegetarian, he just didn't seem to like a certain amount of people of different races.
Yeah.
And it was always his downfall, because he then become really evil for what he done later on.
Yeah.
If he kept, I think, if he kept where he was to start with, he'd have been a very light man. Unbelievably.
Yeah.
If he hadn't have done what he done when he started the Jews and all that crap he done later on, that was the downfall of him, no doubt about that.
Yeah. Well, obviously it's getting on a bit. Obviously we could probably, I mean, I say we, obviously Bob's doing all the talking here, he's got more knowledge than me, but
no, opinions, right? Opinions,
yeah, well said. We could, and we have talked in great length in previous times.
We could do a lot more.
We could do a lot more, and so as far as the World War II, we're going to leave that there for now, and you celebrate your day. For people that don't know, obviously in England and other places, it's May 8th, but in Russia,
May 9th.
they have May 9th, Victory Day. And I believe they called it the Great Patriotic War. I think that's what they called it.
I don't know that.
From my visits to Russia, the thing is, when you get into Russia, and especially in St. Petersburg and Moscow, you just, it's everywhere. You just the statues, the memorials.
Yeah,
it's everywhere. And I'm pretty sure, and feel free to correct me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure they called it the Great Patriotic War. I'm sure of it.
It could have well been.
I'm sure of it. But as I said at the beginning, Bob's got a great knowledge of history, wars. He knows a lot about Russian history as well. So if you're interested in hearing, he's shaking his head, going, no.
All I want is one of them eggs.
He wants me to steal him the Fabergé egg. But
Fabergé egg. That's all I want. If anybody's got one they don't want, can they send it to Keith, please? Fabergé egg. I just want one. I'm not going to sell it. I'll just look at it.
So if you like this video, let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear more from Bob and his opinions and his thoughts about the history and stuff, because he has a lot of opinion. Well, I wouldn't say opinions, but like thoughts and interest in Russian history, and he's spoken to me a lot about that, and we've had some great conversations. But we thought, because it's the 80th anniversary, we want to just kind of, people really need to kind of really remember,
keep it alive.
Exactly.
Keep the day alive.
That's the goal, really.
Bring out the Union Jacks as they've been out today. It's got to be the Commonwealth as well. Some people say Great Britain, the whole Commonwealth.
Absolutely.
Celebrate VE Day. It's the whole European Commonwealth. To celebrate that day. Keep it alive for as long as we can.
And also for people that just don't know, because obviously if you follow in this channel, there'll be a lot of Russian subscribers. But for people that aren't in Russia and don't know, we just want to kind of bring a bit of history and a bit of kind of just kind of let you know.
We know you were there.
The kind of sacrifices that you made.
We know you were there.
And I've, despite what you feel about the country right now, forget about that. Remember what they did. So with that being said, we're going to go. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments, and as always,